The fluorescent lights flickered above the polished floors of Vantage Corp headquarters. The faint hum of the air conditioning blended with the rhythmic click of high heels and the occasional murmur of conversation. In the corner of the vast lobby, sweeping quietly, was a man whose presence went almost unnoticed. His name was Ramesh Sharma, 52 years old, humble, meticulous, and quietly proud of his work. Ramesh had spent 28 years cleaning these halls, polishing every surface, arranging every chair, and ensuring every corner sparkled. Yet, despite his loyalty, his existence was invisible to most except for Mr. Kapoor, the arrogant floor manager, who made it a point to insult Ramesh at every opportunity. That morning, the office was buzzing with excitement. The CEO, Mr. Arvind Malhotra, was expected to arrive for the quarterly review, a meeting that always brought tension and nerves for everyone. Ramesh moved silently, pushing his mop along the gleaming floor, when he overheard Mr. Kapoor laughing with two young executives. "Look at him, still polishing the floors like it's some noble act," Kapoor sneered, pointing at Ramesh. "Some people are born to serve, aren't they?" Ramesh froze for a moment, his hands gripping the mop tighter. He could feel the sting of humiliation, yet he held his head high. But today, something felt different. Today, a small slip of paper had fallen near the entrance of the manager's office. Its corner peeked out from beneath the heavy mahogany desk. Ramesh noticed it, and an unfamiliar spark of curiosity ignited within him. Was it trash or something important? In that instant, a decision weighed heavily on him: ignore it, like always, or pick it up and risk discovery by Kapoor, whose wrath could be merciless. Could he trust his instincts and act boldly, or would caution keep him in the shadows forever? And if he did pick it up, what truths might it reveal? Could this small action change everything he had accepted as normal for decades? The sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the lobby, reflecting off the shiny marble floors and catching on the golden nameplates of the executives' offices. The space smelled faintly of lemon polish and coffee, mingling with the nervous energy of the employees preparing for the big meeting. In the midst of this polished perfection, Ramesh moved like a silent shadow, unnoticed but observant. He carefully approached the edge of Kapoor's office, his heart beating faster than usual. No one seemed to notice him. The piece of paper lay there, folded neatly as if deliberately placed. Ramesh hesitated, glancing at the office door and then at Kapoor, who was distracted by his phone. With a swift, almost imperceptible movement, Ramesh slid the paper into his pocket. "Now what have you done?" he muttered to himself under his breath. He returned to his corner, pretending to mop as usual, but his mind raced. The office seemed to pulse with a hidden rhythm today, almost as if it knew that something was about to change. Then, almost immediately, he noticed something unusual: a faint trail of crumbs leading from the office door to the lobby's side exit. He frowned. Who would leave such a trail? And why? As the employees gathered for the quarterly meeting, the CEO's arrival caused a ripple of tension. Conversation stopped abruptly, phones were tucked away, and all eyes turned toward the glass doors. Mr. Malhotra, a tall man in his 50s with an authoritative presence, walked in, his gaze scanning the room with a calm but piercing intensity. People straightened in their seats, anxious to impress. But Ramesh, standing in his usual corner, felt something stir within him, a mix of fear, anticipation, and an unexplainable sense of opportunity. The meeting began. Charts were displayed on massive screens, executives exchanged polite smiles, and Mr. Kapoor continued his subtle campaign of intimidation, making pointed comments about small mistakes. Ramesh, still unnoticed, felt a strange urge to peek at the paper in his pocket. He unfolded it slightly, careful not to draw attention. What he saw made him freeze. The paper contained a handwritten note with a list of names, numbers, and a cryptic line. "The truth is hidden in plain sight. Only the unseen can reveal it." Ramesh's mind spun. Could this be a secret about the company? Something that the CEO wanted hidden? Or a message meant for someone specific? He looked around. Everyone was focused on the meeting, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. Unable to resist, Ramesh made a bold decision. He quietly slipped away from his usual corner, making his way toward the CEO's office, where he remembered seeing a key labeled Executive Access hanging on the wall. Could it be that the note was a clue, something he was meant to discover? The thought was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Meanwhile, Mr. Kapoor, sensing a shift in the office energy, turned his attention toward Ramesh. "What are you doing?" he barked, pointing at him. The room seemed to shrink in an instant, the fluorescent lights harsh above them. Ramesh froze, but instead of retreating, he met Kapoor's gaze with quiet determination. Something inside him had changed. "Just cleaning," Ramesh said calmly, though his hands trembled slightly. Kapoor sneered, but Ramesh didn't back down. He slipped past him, unnoticed by the busy executives, and entered the hallway that led to the CEO's office. Each step echoed in his mind like a drumbeat of destiny. The note in his pocket seemed to burn against his chest, urging him forward. Inside the CEO's office, Mr. Malhotra reviewed documents, unaware of the small drama unfolding just outside his door. Ramesh paused for a moment, heart pounding, then carefully placed the note on the desk. A decision that could either ruin him or change everything was now made. Mr. Malhotra looked up, his eyes narrowing as he noticed the note. "Where did this come from?" he asked, his voice calm but with an edge that could slice steel. Ramesh swallowed hard. I found it, sir. I thought you should see it." The CEO studied him for a long moment, then leaned back, a shadow crossing his face. "Interesting," he murmured. Then, without warning, he smiled faintly. "Perhaps you've noticed something others haven't. Perhaps it's time for the truth to come out." Ramesh felt a shiver run down his spine. Could it be possible? Was this the moment he had been waiting for all his life? The moment where the unseen janitor could finally step into the light? But just as the tension reached its peak, the office door creaked open, and Mr. Kapoor stormed in, his face red with fury. "What is this?" "Ramesh, what have you done?" he shouted. Ramesh stood tall, holding nothing back. His life, his dignity, his courage all converged in this one moment. And then he noticed something even more shocking. Behind the CEO's desk, a hidden compartment slightly ajar, revealing a series of confidential files labeled with names he recognized, including Kapoor's. A revelation was about to unfold, one that could destroy careers, expose secrets, and change the hierarchy of Vantage Corp forever. The office air felt heavier now, as if every wall was holding its breath. Ramesh's hands were still slightly trembling, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had never imagined that a simple act of picking up a scrap of paper could place him at the center of something much bigger than himself. The hidden compartment behind the CEO's desk beckoned, and the files within seemed to pulse with secrets long buried. Mr. Kapoor's rage was palpable. "Explain yourself," he barked, stepping closer. His polished shoes clicked against the floor in a menacing rhythm. "How dare you touch anything in this office?" Ramesh straightened, his voice steady, though his heart raced. "I didn't take anything, sir. I just saw something that didn't belong to me, and I thought, maybe it needed attention." Kapoor sneered, his face twisted in anger. "Attention? You dare come here like some inspector? You're just a janitor." But before Kapoor could continue his tirade, Mr. Malhotra raised a hand, silencing the room. His sharp gaze fixed on Kapoor, and for the first time, Ramesh noticed the CEO's unusual calm, like a storm brewing quietly beneath a serene sky. "Enough," Malhotra said, his voice low but commanding. "This is not about insults or status. This is about truth." Ramesh blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Truth? Could the CEO really mean him, a janitor, had stumbled upon something important? Malhotra gestured toward the hidden compartment. "Ramesh, I believe you found something you weren't supposed to see. And Kapoor, it seems you have some explaining to do." Kapoor's jaw tightened. His usual arrogance faltered for the first time. He looked around, realizing that the executives gathered for the meeting had also turned their attention toward the scene, whispering nervously among themselves. With a deep breath, Ramesh stepped closer to the desk. The files inside the compartment were meticulously labeled, each one containing details that shocked him. Names of employees, confidential contracts, hidden accounts, even evidence of mismanagement and unethical practices. But one folder caught his eye more than anything else. It had his name on it. Ramesh hesitated, heart hammering. He had always thought of himself as invisible, unimportant in this world of suits and power. Yet here was proof that someone had been watching him, tracking his work, and why? "Why is my name here?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Malhotra's eyes softened for a moment. "Because, Ramesh, you are more important than you think. And because you've always done your job with honesty and care, qualities that are rare in this world." Kapoor scoffed, stepping forward. "This is ridiculous. A janitor? Important? Don't tell me this is some kind of joke." "It's no joke," Malhotra said, his gaze turning cold and piercing. "Some truths are hidden, Kapoor. Some people think they can rise by stepping on others. But real strength, real loyalty, often comes from those who are unseen." Ramesh slowly opened the folder with his name. Inside were documents detailing a potential promotion that had been kept secret for him, along with letters of commendation from previous CEOs, praising his dedication, integrity, and sharp observations. He had been recognized, not publicly, but in the company's highest circles, for qualities no one else seemed to notice. A surge of emotions washed over him: shock, disbelief, pride, and something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Before he could process it all, Kapoor lunged toward the files. "Hand them over." "This is mine," he shouted, his anger boiling over. But Malhotra raised a hand again, and Kapoor froze, as if struck by an invisible force. "Control yourself," the CEO said. "Your time of using fear to maintain power is over. These files prove more than just a hierarchy, they show truth, accountability, and the value of integrity. And today, that integrity stands in this room in the form of Ramesh Sharma." Whispers filled the room. Executives exchanged shocked looks. A janitor being addressed in this way, holding the key to exposing truth and hidden decisions, it was unprecedented. Ramesh felt the weight of the moment. He realized that this was more than recognition, it was responsibility. The files weren't just documents, they were a test. How he acted now could either protect the company from corruption or expose the rotten core that many had ignored for years. "Sir," he said carefully, "what should I do?" Malhotra looked at him, his eyes piercing, but kind. "Do what you believe is right. Let the truth speak, but choose your timing wisely. Power and anger are tools, used unwisely, they destroy. Used wisely, they change everything." Ramesh's mind raced. Could he reveal the secrets and risk retaliation from people like Kapoor? Could he trust that the executives who now watched him would support him? Or should he quietly safeguard the files until the right moment? Every choice seemed to carry consequences heavier than he had ever imagined. Just then, a faint noise echoed from the hallway, a series of hurried footsteps approaching the CEO's office. Someone was coming, and their presence felt urgent, almost threatening. Kapoor's eyes narrowed. "Who else is involved in this?" he demanded. Ramesh instinctively slipped the folder back into the hidden compartment, careful not to be seen. He felt a chill run down his spine. This was no longer about him or even Kapoor, it was bigger. Much bigger. The office door opened suddenly, and a young woman in her 30s, sharp-eyed and confident, entered. She was Anika Mehra, the company's newly appointed Chief Operations Officer, known for her decisiveness and keen judgment. "I heard there's a problem," she said, glancing between Malhotra, Kapoor, and Ramesh. Her gaze landed on Ramesh, lingering in a way that suggested curiosity and perhaps recognition. Malhotra nodded. "Anika, Ramesh has found something critical. Something hidden." Anika's eyes widened. "Hidden? Are you saying, this janitor?" "Ramesh isn't just a janitor," Malhotra interrupted firmly. "He is someone who sees what others overlook. And today, what he's seen may change everything." Kapoor, furious and humiliated, clenched his fists. "This is absurd. You can't just elevate someone because of, what?" "Because truth cannot be ignored, Kapoor," Malhotra said, his voice rising with authority. "And because sometimes, the people you least expect hold the power to reveal it." The tension in the room became almost unbearable. Executives murmured, papers rustled, and Ramesh felt as if the walls themselves were leaning in, waiting for what would come next. Anika stepped closer, her voice low but firm. Ramesh, do you understand what you've discovered? And what it could mean for everyone here? Ramesh swallowed hard. I think I do. But I need guidance, sir. I've never been in a position like this. Malhotra smiled faintly. Then you will learn. And your first lesson begins now. Courage isn't absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. At that moment, the faint sound of a phone vibrating broke the tension. Kapoor's phone. He glanced at the screen, his face blanching. A single message flashed. They know. Do not fail. Kapoor's hands shook. Ramesh felt a chill. Who knew? What would happen if Kapoor acted on this message? And what secrets were still hidden, waiting to be discovered in the depths of the CEO's office? For the first time in decades, Ramesh realized that his life had changed forever. The janitor who had been invisible was now at the center of a storm that could shake the entire company to its foundation. And the choices he made next would either reveal the ultimate truth or destroy everything he had worked for. The office felt smaller now, the walls closing in as the weight of secrets hung heavily in the air. Ramesh's hands were still trembling, but his mind was sharper than ever. The note, the hidden compartment, the folder with his name, everything had shifted in a single morning. He had stepped from invisibility into the center of a storm he couldn't yet understand. Kapoor's face was a mask of fury and disbelief. He stared at Ramesh, then at Malhotra, and finally at Anika. This is ridiculous. You expect me to accept that a janitor has uncovered, what exactly? His voice cracked with anger and fear. I've run this floor, I've made decisions, and now, this? Malhotra's gaze didn't waver. Kapoor, control yourself. The facts speak louder than your temper. And today, those facts have been revealed by someone you've dismissed for years. Ramesh swallowed hard, feeling the unusual power of the moment. He had never imagined standing here, confronted by a man who had humiliated him countless times. But there was no fear left, only determination. Something inside him had shifted. Anika stepped closer to Ramesh. Show me, she said, her voice calm but firm. Show me what you found. I need to understand. Ramesh nodded, carefully reaching into the hidden compartment and pulling out the folder. He placed it on the CEO's desk, opening it slowly. As he flipped through the pages, the room grew silent. Every eye was on him. The documents revealed a shocking truth. Kapoor had been manipulating accounts, hiding losses, and even sabotaging projects to cover up failures. Executives who had trusted him were unwittingly complicit in his schemes. And buried within the files were hints of even larger deception, a plan that could have endangered the company's future. Anika's eyes widened. This is massive. How did you even notice it, Ramesh? Ramesh shrugged slightly. I don't know. I just pay attention. I see things others ignore. Malhotra nodded slowly. Exactly. That is why honesty and observation matter. Ramesh, your attention to detail has saved this company from disasters that most people wouldn't even recognize. Kapoor's face turned red. He realized his entire facade of control was crumbling. He took a step forward, his voice low and threatening. You think this changes anything? You don't know who you're dealing with. But before Ramesh could respond, Malhotra raised his hand. Enough. Kapoor, your actions have consequences. Today, you will answer for them. And everyone here will see that integrity and courage are more valuable than fear and manipulation. Kapoor's hands shook, and he stormed out of the office, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed like a warning through the corridors. Ramesh felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. He had survived the first confrontation, but the battle was far from over. Anika turned to Ramesh. We need to act carefully. Kapoor is dangerous, and he has allies. But today, you've proven something important. You can uncover the truth others are too blind to see. Ramesh nodded. I don't want anyone else to get hurt. I just want things to be right. Malhotra placed a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. That is the difference between someone who leads with integrity and someone who rules with fear. And that difference is what will guide us forward. Just as Ramesh was beginning to process the events, a faint sound of typing caught his attention. From the corner of the office, a computer screen flashed with an encrypted message. "We are watching. One wrong move and everything ends." Ramesh's stomach sank. Kapoor's retaliation might be closer than they thought. Whoever sent the message was skilled, calculating, and determined. The hidden threat loomed over them, silent but deadly. Anika noticed his gaze. "Ramesh, stay focused. We will need your help, more than ever. There are layers to this deception, and we have only just scratched the surface." Ramesh took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on him. The janitor who had been invisible for decades now held knowledge that could topple careers, expose corruption, and save the company. But the path ahead was dangerous, and every step had to be calculated. The next few days passed like a blur. Ramesh continued his work, moving silently through the corridors, while keeping a careful watch on Kapoor and the files he had discovered. He began to notice small patterns, documents slightly out of place, emails that disappeared, hushed conversations in empty offices. The deeper he looked, the more he realized the scale of Kapoor's scheme. One evening, as the office emptied and the nightlights flickered on, Ramesh returned to the CEO's office. He carefully opened the folder again, studying the details that could bring the entire operation crashing down. And then, something caught his eye: an envelope tucked beneath the files. It was labeled simply, "For the Unseen." Ramesh's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a key, not just any key, but one that seemed to fit a small, hidden safe he had never noticed behind a painting in Malhotra's office. Alongside the key was a note. "The truth goes deeper than you imagine. Courage will guide you, but caution will protect you. Only reveal what is necessary, and the rest will follow." Ramesh realized that this was no accident. Someone had prepared this for him, someone who trusted that he could handle the responsibility. And for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose he had never experienced. But just as he was about to place the key in his pocket, the office door clicked open again. Kapoor's shadow loomed in the doorway, his eyes burning with fury. "You think you're smart, don't you?" he hissed. "This ends tonight." Ramesh froze, the key heavy in his hand, the folder open before him, and the entire office holding its breath. He knew that whatever happened next would change everything: his life, the company, and the hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. The night air had settled into the office like a heavy blanket, and the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed louder than ever. Ramesh clutched the small key in his hand, the weight of it heavier than it seemed. Every sound, every shadow, felt amplified. Kapoor's presence in the doorway was a warning, a storm about to break. His face was red with fury, his eyes dark with a mixture of fear and hatred. "You don't know what you're playing with, Ramesh," Kapoor said, stepping closer. "These files, this key, you have no idea what it could mean for you or for anyone else here." Ramesh held his ground, his heart pounding. "I've spent my life seeing what others ignore," he said quietly but firmly. "I know enough to understand that honesty matters more than fear. And I won't let you destroy what you've been hiding." Kapoor laughed, a low, dangerous sound. "Destroy? I'm not the one in danger here, you fool. You're meddling in things far above your pay grade. Do you really think Malhotra will protect you?" Ramesh's grip on the key tightened. "I'm not here to be protected. I'm here to do what's right." For a moment, silence hung between them. Kapoor's fists clenched, and he seemed to be calculating, weighing his next move. Then, with sudden fury, he lunged toward Ramesh, trying to snatch the key from his hand. Ramesh dodged instinctively, the key slipping into his pocket. The two men circled each other like predators, the tension so thick it felt like it could snap. Then, a sharp voice cut through the room. "Stop." It was Anika. She stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Kapoor. "This is not the way," she said firmly. "You've been exposed. Your anger won't save you. And your threats won't intimidate him." Kapoor froze for a moment, surprised by her calm authority. You think you can control this? He spat. Anika didn't flinch. No. But I can make sure justice is done. And that starts with transparency, not violence. Kapoor's shoulders stiffened. He glared at Ramesh one last time before storming out, slamming the office door behind him. The sound echoed through the empty corridors, leaving a tense silence in its wake. Ramesh exhaled slowly, his body still trembling from the adrenaline. He realized that he had survived the first confrontation, but it would not be the last. Kapoor was dangerous, and he would stop at nothing to reclaim control. Malhotra, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Ramesh, you've taken the first step. But the real work begins now. There are deeper secrets in this company than you realize, and they are tied to Kapoor's schemes. You must be careful. Every action you take will be watched. Ramesh nodded, determination settling over him like armor. He opened the folder again and carefully examined the next set of documents. They reveal financial manipulations, backdoor deals, and even falsified performance reports that had been used to discredit honest employees. It was clear that Kapoor's influence had extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. Anika leaned over his shoulder. These documents, they're just the beginning. There's more hidden, encrypted files in the main server. If we can access them, we can expose everything. Ramesh's mind raced. Accessing the main server was risky. Kapoor and his allies had likely fortified it with multiple layers of security. But the key in his pocket seemed to whisper a promise of discovery, a chance to reveal the truth that had been hidden for years. Suddenly, Ramesh noticed something unusual, a faint reflection in the polished floor. It was a shadow, moving quickly across the office. He squinted and realized someone was watching them, someone silent, someone skilled. His heart skipped a beat. Did you see that? He asked quietly. Anika followed his gaze. Her eyes narrowed. Yes. And they're not just watching. They're waiting. We need to move carefully. If Kapoor has allies in the office, any sudden move could trigger retaliation. Ramesh swallowed hard. The thought that someone might be monitoring their every action made the stakes even higher. He realized that the battle for truth was not just about files or keys, it was about strategy, courage, and timing. That night, Ramesh returned to his small quarters in the basement, the key hidden in his pocket. He replayed the day's events in his mind, the confrontation, Kapoor's rage, Malhotra's trust, Anika's guidance. He knew that he had crossed a line from which there was no return. Sleep was elusive. Every creak in the floor, every flicker of the lights, felt like a signal. The company that had once been a quiet routine in his life now felt like a battlefield. He was no longer invisible. He was a target and a potential hero. The next morning, as the office buzzed with routine activity, Ramesh noticed subtle changes. People who had ignored him before now glanced his way with curiosity. Whispers circulated in hushed tones. And in the corner of the lobby, he caught sight of Kapoor, standing with a group of executives, his expression dark, his jaw tight. He was plotting, scheming, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ramesh knew one thing for certain: the path forward was dangerous. Every move mattered. And the deeper he dug, the closer he would get to truths that some people would kill to protect. With the key in his pocket and determination in his heart, Ramesh made his way to the CEO's office once more. The hidden compartment, the encrypted files, the secrets waiting to be uncovered, they all called to him. But as he approached the desk, he noticed something chilling: the faint outline of a camera in the ceiling corner, its lens trained directly on him. Kapoor had spies everywhere. Every step he took, every document he touched, was being watched. The office had emptied, leaving only the faint hum of computers and the distant echo of footsteps in the hallways. Ramesh's palms were slightly sweaty as he approached the CEO's desk. The small key in his pocket seemed heavier than ever, a tangible reminder of the responsibility he now carried. Every corner of the office seemed charged with tension, and the shadows themselves appeared to be watching. Anika appeared silently behind him, her presence a quiet comfort amidst the storm of uncertainty. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Ramesh nodded. "I have to be. We can't wait any longer." Together, they moved toward the hidden compartment. Ramesh inserted the key into the lock, feeling the click echo through the stillness. Slowly, he opened the compartment, revealing a sleek external drive and a folder marked encrypted files, confidential. Anika's eyes widened. This is it. The heart of Kapoor's operation. Everything he's hidden for years is probably in there. Ramesh took a deep breath, his mind racing. Accessing the files would be dangerous, they were encrypted and likely monitored. One wrong move could alert Kapoor or his allies. But the thought of finally revealing the truth fueled his courage. He connected the drive to Malhotra's computer, watching as the screen prompted for a password. The notes in the folder offered a hint: only the unseen can reveal what is hidden. Look for the truth in plain sight. Ramesh's mind flickered back to his years as a janitor, the corners others ignored, the details others missed. And then it clicked. He typed the first name that came to mind, his own. The screen blinked. Access granted. Ramesh froze for a moment, disbelief washing over him. He had succeeded. But before he could celebrate, a soft noise came from the hallway, a faint click, almost like a door unlocking. Someone was approaching. Kapoor. Anika placed a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. Stay calm. Follow my lead. Ramesh nodded, his heart pounding. The files on the screen were staggering: hidden accounts, bribery records, falsified performance reviews, and even a secret project that Kapoor had been developing to manipulate investors and sabotage honest employees. The scale of the corruption was massive. Look at this, Anika whispered, pointing to a folder labeled Project Eclipse. This could ruin him and anyone who helped him. Ramesh's hands trembled as he scrolled through the documents. Each page confirmed what he had feared: Kapoor's schemes were far-reaching, and he had been protected by his allies at every turn. But now, for the first time, the truth was within their grasp. A sudden noise made them both freeze. The door handle rattled. Kapoor's voice, low and dangerous, echoed through the room. Thought you could do this without me noticing? Ramesh's stomach sank. Kapoor had arrived earlier than expected. Panic surged, but Anika's calm presence grounded him. Listen carefully, she said. We can't let him see what we've accessed. We need to secure the files and get out before he notices the full extent. Ramesh nodded, his fingers moving quickly. They began copying the most critical files onto a secure drive, ensuring no trace of access would be left behind. Every second felt like a lifetime as Kapoor's footsteps grew louder. Then, just as Kapoor pushed the door open, Ramesh had an idea. Follow me, he whispered to Anika. They slipped out of the office and down the stairwell to the basement, using corridors few employees ever entered. Kapoor's voice echoed angrily behind them. Stop them. They can't get away with this. Ramesh's heart raced as they navigated the labyrinthine passages. For years, he had walked these halls unnoticed, memorizing every corner and shadow. Now, that knowledge became their lifeline. Finally, they reached a secure storage room, where Ramesh locked the files in a cabinet only he knew about. The key to the hidden truths now rested in a place safe from Kapoor's reach, for now. Anika looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and admiration. You did it. We have the evidence we need. Ramesh exhaled, but the tension didn't leave his body. This is only the beginning, he said quietly. Kapoor will retaliate. He will come after us. And we have no idea how far he's willing to go. Anika nodded. Then we prepare. We protect the files, expose the truth strategically, and ensure that no one else suffers because of his corruption. But Ramesh, you've already proven you're more than a janitor. You're the key to stopping him. Outside, the office lights flickered, and Ramesh felt a chill. Kapoor's shadow loomed over the company, and the game had only just begun. Every ally, every enemy, every decision would matter from this point forward. As they left the basement and returned to the main floor, Ramesh noticed subtle changes. Executives whispered in corners, employees cast curious glances, and the atmosphere seemed charged with anticipation. The world he had known, a world of silence and invisibility, was gone. But as they returned to the safety of the CEO's office, Ramesh's mind kept returning to one question. Who had sent the note and key to him? Was it Malhotra, some other hidden ally, or someone even more mysterious, watching the events unfold from the shadows? And most importantly, could they stay one step ahead of Kapoor before he unleashed the full force of his fury? Ramesh realized that the path ahead was darker and more dangerous than he had imagined, and that every choice could tip the balance between exposing the truth and losing everything he had fought for. The shadows of corruption were deep, and the first sparks of justice had only just begun to light the way. The morning light filtered weakly through the tall windows of Vantage Corp headquarters, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Everything seemed normal: the quiet hum of computers, the distant ringing of phones, the occasional murmur of conversations. But Ramesh knew better. The calm was deceptive, a thin veil covering the storm that Kapoor was preparing. Ramesh sat in the CEO's office, reviewing the files they had secured. Anika was beside him, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she cross-checked financial records, emails, and encrypted communications. Together, they were uncovering layers of deception more complex than either had imagined. Every document revealed another betrayal, another hidden agenda that Kapoor had orchestrated over years. "He's everywhere," Anika whispered, leaning back in her chair. "Every department, every project, he's embedded himself so deeply. We have to be careful. One wrong move and he could destroy everything." Ramesh nodded, his gaze fixed on a series of emails that hinted at illegal transactions, hidden offshore accounts, and manipulation of employee evaluations. "It's worse than I thought," he said quietly. "This isn't just about him being corrupt. He's been controlling the company, deciding who succeeds, who fails, even who gets fired." Anika's eyes darkened. "And now that we know, he'll stop at nothing to protect himself. He'll try to intimidate, manipulate, or even frame someone." Ramesh swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. For decades, he had been invisible, unnoticed, and yet now, the fate of the company and the truth rested on his shoulders. Suddenly, a notification popped up on Malhotra's computer, a message from an anonymous source. "Kapoor knows. He's mobilizing. Trust no one." Ramesh's pulse quickened. Kapoor had allies, and some of them might be close enough to watch their every move. The danger was closer than they had imagined. "We need a plan," Ramesh said, his voice low but determined. "We can't just sit here waiting for him to act. We have to expose him, but we need proof that's undeniable." Anika nodded. "I've been thinking about that. If we gather everything and present it strategically to the board, there's no way Kapoor can fight back. But we need to make sure he doesn't know we're moving." Ramesh's eyes flicked toward the office door. "That's the hard part. He's already suspicious. If he finds out we're coordinating behind his back, he'll come after us with everything he has." Anika leaned closer. "Then we need to move carefully, in silence. We can't trust anyone in the company fully. Even people we think are allies could be compromised." Ramesh's mind raced. For the first time in his life, he understood the true scale of danger. Kapoor was not just a threat to them individually, he was a force that could destabilize the entire company if left unchecked. And the more Ramesh learned, the more he realized that the battle ahead would test his courage, intelligence, and instincts like never before. Hours passed as they worked, moving silently through files and encrypted messages. Every click of the keyboard, every shuffle of paper seemed amplified in the quiet office. And then, just as they were about to finalize a list of evidence to present, a sudden noise made them freeze, the soft hiss of the office door unlocking. Kapoor. He stepped inside, his face calm but his eyes dark with menace. "I wondered how long it would take you to start digging," he said smoothly. "Did you really think you could uncover my secrets without consequences?" Ramesh's hands clenched into fists. He felt a surge of fear, but also a strange calm. This was the confrontation he had been preparing for, and he was ready to face it. Anika stood beside him, her eyes cold and unwavering. "Kapoor, we know everything," she said firmly. "Your schemes, your manipulations, it's over. There's no way you can deny it now." Kapoor's lips curled into a sneer. You think a few files and emails will stop me? You're naive. There are layers you haven't even seen. And there are people watching you right now, people you trust. Ramesh felt a chill. Kapoor knew about the anonymous messages, the hidden threats, and the spies. Every ally could be an enemy. Every step they took could be observed. You've underestimated me, Ramesh said, his voice steady. For years, I've been invisible. You've ignored me, insulted me, and thought I wouldn't notice. But I see more than you know. And I'm not afraid anymore. Kapoor laughed, a low, dangerous sound. Brave words, Janitor. Let's see how far courage takes you when everything around you is collapsing. The tension was electric. Every breath felt heavy, every second stretched endlessly. Ramesh knew that the next move would define everything. Either they would secure the truth and bring Kapoor down, or they would be crushed under his wrath. Suddenly, Kapoor reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone. You think you're clever, he said, dialing quickly. But I have backup. People who will ensure this company remains under my control. Ramesh's heart raced. Time was running out. He realized they had only one chance to act and every second counted. He looked at Anika. We have to move now. Before he calls for reinforcements. Anika nodded. Then let's finish this. Carefully, but decisively. As Kapoor's fingers hovered over the phone screen, Ramesh felt the weight of the hidden key in his pocket. It wasn't just a key to the compartment anymore, it was a symbol of his courage, his determination, and the power to reveal the truth. And at that moment, he knew one thing: the real battle wasn't just about files or secrets. It was about standing up to fear, exposing corruption, and daring to do what others wouldn't. The room seemed to hold its breath as Ramesh made his move, knowing that whatever happened next would determine the fate of everyone in Vantage Corp and possibly his own life. The office had never felt more like a battlefield. Every corridor, every corner seemed charged with tension, as if the walls themselves were aware of the war being waged within. Ramesh moved quietly, carrying the small secure drive with the incriminating evidence. His heart raced, but his mind was focused. For years, he had been invisible, unnoticed, yet now the fate of the company and the exposure of Kapoor's corruption rested squarely on his shoulders. Anika stayed close, guiding him through the quiet office floors. We have to reach the boardroom, she whispered. Once we present this to the board, Kapoor has no control. But we have to be careful. He's likely monitoring every move. Ramesh nodded. The hum of computers and the faint flicker of lights felt deafening, a constant reminder that Kapoor could strike at any moment. As they moved, Ramesh noticed subtle signs of surveillance: doors slightly ajar, shadows shifting unnaturally, a whisper of footsteps behind them that vanished when they turned. Kapoor had eyes everywhere. When they finally reached the boardroom, Ramesh took a deep breath. He placed the secure drive on the table and opened it, revealing folders upon folders of manipulated accounts, falsified reports, and evidence of Kapoor's sabotage. The magnitude of the corruption was overwhelming, even to someone who had seen much in silence over the years. Anika looked at him, her eyes reflecting both admiration and urgency. Ramesh, are you ready? Once we present this, there's no turning back. Ramesh swallowed hard. I'm ready. It's time for the truth. They had barely started when the door burst open. Kapoor stormed in, flanked by 2 security personnel. His face was twisted with fury. You think you can just walk in here and expose me? He shouted. Do you know who you're dealing with? Ramesh stood firm, holding the evidence in front of him. I know exactly who you are. And I know what you've done. It ends today. Kapoor laughed, a harsh, chilling sound. Ends? You don't understand, this is only the beginning. I have allies who will bury this evidence, discredit you, and make sure your so-called truth never sees the light of day. Anika's voice cut through the tension. Then let's make sure that doesn't happen. Ramesh pressed a key on the drive, and the contents began streaming onto the boardroom projector. Every employee's eyes widened as the evidence appeared: emails, contracts, manipulated evaluations, even secret communications that exposed Kapoor's deepest schemes. Murmurs turned to gasps, and whispers filled the room. Kapoor's face paled. He realized that the game was over, that the carefully hidden network of deception he had built over years was unraveling before him. This can't be happening," he stammered, his voice shaking. The board members, who had been observing silently, rose from their seats. Mr. Malhotra entered behind Ramesh and Anika, his expression calm but deadly. "It is happening, Kapoor," he said. "And this is why integrity matters more than fear." Kapoor tried to intervene, to snatch the drive, but security, now aware of the evidence and the CEO's authority, stepped forward to restrain him. His anger boiled over as he realized he was no longer in control. Ramesh felt a mix of relief and disbelief. For years, he had been invisible, overlooked, dismissed. But now, standing in the center of the boardroom, he realized that courage and integrity could outweigh fear and manipulation. He had exposed the truth, and in doing so, he had not only protected the company but also restored a sense of justice that had long been absent. Malhotra turned to Ramesh. "You've done more than your job, Ramesh. You've done something extraordinary. Not because of your position, but because of your courage and your honesty. Today, you've proven that true strength comes from the unseen, from those who act with integrity even when no one is watching." Anika smiled, relief evident in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "Together." But even as Kapoor was taken away and the immediate danger seemed over, Ramesh felt a lingering unease. The fight had been won, but he knew the world was filled with people like Kapoor, those who manipulated, deceived, and hid in shadows. He had seen just how far someone would go to protect their power. As the boardroom emptied and employees whispered about the events, Ramesh realized that his life had changed forever. The janitor who had been invisible, overlooked, and dismissed had become a symbol of integrity and courage, a reminder that even the smallest actions could ripple into the most profound consequences. Yet, in the quiet corners of the office, a subtle tension remained. Some people had watched, some had listened, and some had yet to reveal where their loyalty lay. Ramesh knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the company, but for himself. The morning sun streamed through the large windows of Vantage Corp headquarters, casting a golden glow on the polished floors. For the first time in weeks, the atmosphere felt lighter, though still tinged with the remnants of tension. Employees moved about with cautious optimism, whispers of the previous day's events floating like fragile threads through the office. Ramesh walked through the corridors, his heart steady but aware. He had survived the storm, exposed Kapoor's schemes, and seen justice served. Yet, he understood that victory was never as simple as it seemed. The company was safe for now, but the lessons of courage, vigilance, and integrity remained. In the boardroom, Malhotra addressed the gathered executives. "Today marks a turning point for Vantage Corp. Corruption has been rooted out, and accountability restored. But this is not just about punishment, it is about recognizing those who stand for truth, even when unseen, even when ignored." All eyes turned toward Ramesh, whose presence in the center of the room was both unexpected and profoundly moving. Whispers grew into murmurs of respect as the truth of his journey became clear. For decades, he had worked silently, noticing details others overlooked, acting with diligence and honesty even when no one paid attention. Today, those qualities had changed the company's future. Anika stood beside him, her eyes reflecting pride and relief. "You've taught everyone here an important lesson, Ramesh," she said softly. "That courage is not about titles, power, or recognition. It's about doing what's right when no one is watching." Ramesh felt a warmth in his chest. For years, he had been invisible, dismissed, and underestimated. Now, he realized that visibility was never the measure of one's worth. Actions, integrity, and the courage to act mattered more than anyone's perception. Kapoor had been removed from the company, escorted by security, his schemes laid bare. The evidence they had secured ensured that he could never manipulate or intimidate again. And yet, as Ramesh observed the aftermath, he understood the subtle truth: evil could hide in the most unexpected places, and vigilance was an ongoing responsibility. Malhotra placed a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. "Today, you've reminded us all that heroes are often the ones no one sees. That justice begins not with fear, but with courage. Your actions have saved more than just this company, they've restored faith in integrity itself. Ramesh nodded, feeling the weight and the honor of the moment. He thought of every late night, every unnoticed act, every detail he had observed over the years. They had all led him here. As the office returned to a semblance of normalcy, Ramesh and Anika took a moment to reflect in the quiet of the CEO's office. The files, now secured and audited, had told the story of deception, greed, and the power of truth. They had revealed that courage was not always loud or celebrated. It often began with one person noticing what others ignored, daring to act, and standing firm against fear. Anika smiled faintly. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "All the risk, all the danger?" Ramesh shook his head. "No. I've learned something important. That doing what's right, even when unseen, is the only thing that truly matters." The moral of the story settled in the room like a gentle truth: integrity and courage are not measured by power or position, but by the choices we make when no one is watching. And even the smallest actions, the most unnoticed efforts, can ripple outward to change everything. As Ramesh returned to his daily duties, he knew he would never be invisible again, not in the hearts of those who had witnessed his courage, nor in the fabric of a company that had learned the value of honesty. And as he passed through the corridors, once silent and indifferent, he smiled quietly to himself, understanding the power of being unseen yet indispensable. The office was calm, but the lesson endured. Courage, integrity, and vigilance would guide the company forward. And Ramesh, once a humble janitor, had become the quiet hero who reminded everyone that true strength lies not in titles, but in the unwavering choice to do what is right. The world outside continued, indifferent yet full of possibility. And Ramesh walked among it, carrying the quiet power of truth, knowing that even in the shadows, light could prevail. The day after Kapoor's removal, Vantage Corp hummed with cautious optimism. Yet, beneath the polished floors and organized desks, subtle tensions lingered. Not everyone was thrilled by the revelations, and whispers of resistance floated like shadows in the corners of the office. Ramesh, though hailed as a hero by many, remained alert. He had learned that danger often hid where you least expected it. As he carried his mop and bucket through the quiet corridors, Ramesh noticed someone waiting near the elevator, a tall figure, partially concealed behind a column. The man stepped forward as Ramesh approached, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Ramesh," the man asked, his voice low and cautious. "I'm Rajiv. I work in accounts." Ramesh narrowed his eyes. "Accounts, and?" Rajiv swallowed nervously. "And I've been following Kapoor's actions for years, quietly. I didn't have proof until now. But I've seen what you did, how you uncovered the files, how you exposed him. I want to help. If you'll let me." Ramesh studied him carefully. For years, he had learned to trust his instincts. There was something genuine in Rajiv's eyes, a mixture of fear and determination. But trust in the office could be deadly. One wrong move could undo everything. "Why now?" Ramesh asked quietly. "Why not sooner?" Rajiv's gaze dropped. "I was afraid. Kapoor had eyes everywhere. But I couldn't stay silent any longer. And now, with him gone, we can make things right together." Anika, who had followed Ramesh discreetly, stepped forward. "We'll need your knowledge and skills, Rajiv. But you have to understand, this isn't just about catching a corrupt executive. There are deeper layers, and any misstep could cost us everything." Rajiv nodded. "I understand. I'm willing to take that risk." Ramesh took a deep breath. "All right. But we move carefully. Step by step. No sudden moves. The files are only part of the story. We need to uncover everything Kapoor tried to hide, and ensure the company is fully secured." Over the next few days, the three of them worked silently, reviewing hidden accounts, encrypted emails, and subtle manipulations Kapoor had implemented over years. Rajiv's insight proved invaluable. He identified inconsistencies in budgets, payments, and personnel evaluations that even Ramesh had not noticed. One evening, as the office emptied and the fluorescent lights flickered, Anika uncovered a set of emails pointing to a hidden offshore account. The money trail suggested Kapoor had not only defrauded the company but had diverted funds to external entities, potentially harming investors and employees alike. This is huge, Anika whispered, her eyes wide. If we trace this, we can prevent a major financial disaster. But we have to be careful, whoever handled this could still be monitoring transactions. Ramesh nodded. Then we move tonight. Quietly. Step by step. And we make sure everything is documented securely. No risks. As they worked, Ramesh noticed a shadow in the corner, a subtle movement he had learned to trust over years. It was not a threat, but a silent observer, someone taking careful notes. His heart skipped a beat. Could Kapoor have left behind someone loyal, waiting to retaliate? Or was it an ally, silently ensuring the path forward? Before he could react, Rajiv spoke. There's something else, something I've kept to myself. I discovered a hidden account in the HR system. It's linked to bonuses Kapoor manipulated, and it points to people who helped him cover up the schemes. If we expose this, we can ensure accountability at every level. Ramesh's pulse quickened. Then we need to act carefully. But we have to be thorough. No one gets missed. The three of them worked through the night, piecing together the final strands of Kapoor's web of deception. Every click of the mouse, every movement of files, felt like stepping through a minefield. The risk was enormous, but the reward, the truth, was worth it. As dawn approached, they had compiled a comprehensive report, connecting every manipulated account, every hidden payment, and every secret action Kapoor had orchestrated. The evidence was undeniable, overwhelming, and ready to be presented to the board. Ramesh leaned back, exhausted but resolute. It's done. Everything we've found, everything he tried to hide, it's all here. But we have to be ready. There could still be surprises. Anika placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. No matter what happens next, we did what's right. And now, no one can ignore the truth. Ramesh looked at Rajiv, who nodded solemnly. Together, we've turned the tide. But this isn't over. Not entirely. We have to ensure that Kapoor's influence is gone for good. And somewhere in the shadows of the office, unseen but present, someone or something was watching. Waiting. Calculating. The next move could change everything once again. Could Kapoor's hidden allies strike back? Could someone in the company still betray them? And would Ramesh, Anika, and Rajiv manage to secure the truth completely, without losing everything in the process? The night had revealed an unexpected ally, but it had also reminded them that danger lurked in places they could never fully anticipate. The morning sunlight struggled to pierce through the tall glass windows of Vantage Corp. The office buzzed with activity, but the calm was fragile and uneasy tension hung over every corridor, every desk. Ramesh felt it immediately, the silent hum of anticipation and caution that had become all too familiar. He was reviewing the final report, ensuring every detail of Kapoor's manipulations was documented, when Rajiv appeared beside him, a pale worry written across his face. Ramesh, there's been activity, Rajiv said quietly. Unusual logins on the financial system overnight. Someone tried to access the secured files. And it wasn't authorized. Ramesh's heart sank. Kapoor? Rajiv shook his head. I don't know yet. But it's deliberate. Calculated. Whoever it is, they know exactly what they're doing. Anika entered the room, eyes sharp. We've been expecting this. When you expose someone like Kapoor, the first retaliation is always subtle, testing defenses, probing weaknesses. But it's only the beginning. Ramesh felt a mixture of dread and determination. For months, he had been preparing for moments like this, yet the reality was more intense than he had imagined. Kapoor's influence had not ended with his removal. There were remnants, loyalists, perhaps even external players who could strike without warning. They quickly traced the breach. The logins had originated from an external IP address, one masked but familiar to Rajiv. Someone is trying to manipulate the accounts, Rajiv explained. They're attempting to hide or delete evidence. If they succeed, all our work could be destroyed. Ramesh clenched his fists. Then we stop them. No mistakes. Anika nodded. We'll need to act fast. and will need to anticipate every move. This is more than just securing files, it's a battle for the company's future. As they worked, the office remained deceptively quiet. But Ramesh's instincts, honed over years of unnoticed observation, detected subtle signs of surveillance: a shadow flickering in the corner, a faint reflection on the polished floor, a whisper of movement near the elevators. Kapoor's allies, whoever they were, had begun their attack. Hours passed in tense silence as the team fortified the files, implemented new security measures, and traced the source of the intrusion. Finally, they identified the hacker, an ex-employee, long loyal to Kapoor, with access to critical systems. "They've set up automated scripts," Rajiv explained, eyes wide. "If we don't act now, they'll erase everything and make it look like an internal error. The company's reputation and the truth will be destroyed." Ramesh's jaw tightened. "Then we intercept. No hesitation. This ends tonight." Under the cover of night, they executed their plan. Ramesh moved swiftly through the building, coordinating with Anika and Rajiv, securing critical terminals and blocking access points. Every keystroke, every movement was deliberate, careful, and calculated. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the office into brief darkness. The hum of computers was punctuated by a sharp alert: someone had physically tried to access the server room. Ramesh's pulse quickened. "It's them," Anika whispered. "They're here." Ramesh grabbed his flashlight and moved silently toward the server room. In the shadows, two figures were attempting to tamper with the main system. He recognized the familiar face of an ex-employee from Kapoor's inner circle. "Stop!" Ramesh shouted, and the figures froze. The flashlight beam caught them off guard. One of them lunged toward the controls, but Rajiv was faster. "Not today," he yelled, blocking the attempt and securing the terminal. A brief struggle ensued, tense and dangerous, but Ramesh's quick thinking and years of silent observation gave him the edge. Within minutes, the intruders were contained, and the system was secure. Breathing heavily, Ramesh looked at the secured files, realizing the magnitude of what they had just accomplished. They had thwarted Kapoor's first strike, preserved the evidence, and protected the truth. But even as relief settled over them, a lingering fear remained. Kapoor's reach had been underestimated, and his allies had been bold. This was only the first attempt at retaliation. Anika placed a hand on Ramesh's shoulder. "You did well. But be prepared, this is far from over. The battle is only escalating. And we have to stay one step ahead." Ramesh nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. He had faced danger, exposure, and threats, yet he realized something fundamental: courage, vigilance, and integrity were the shields he needed to survive. Somewhere in the shadows, Kapoor's network was regrouping, planning its next strike. And Ramesh knew that the war for truth, justice, and the company's future was far from over. The air in Vantage Corp's corridors felt heavier than usual. Every whisper, every glance seemed amplified. The office that had once been a place of routine now resembled a battlefield, filled with invisible threats and hidden agendas. Ramesh walked silently, his senses sharper than ever, the small secure drive in his pocket a constant reminder of the stakes. Anika met him near the CEO's office. Her face was tense, her eyes scanning the hall. "Ramesh, there's a problem. One of the senior executives. I think they've been feeding information to Kapoor's allies. We can't be sure who yet, but the signs are clear. Someone in the office is betraying us." Ramesh's heart sank. Betrayal from within was far more dangerous than external threats. "Do you have any idea who?" he asked quietly. Anika shook her head. "Not yet. But we need to act carefully. One false move and they could destroy the files, or worse, frame us." Ramesh clenched his fists. Over the past weeks, he had faced Kapoor, thwarted attacks, and uncovered hidden corruption. But this, the threat from someone within, was more personal, more dangerous. The enemy could be anyone, someone he had trusted, someone who smiled politely while plotting in the shadows. Rajiv appeared, holding a tablet. "I've been tracking anomalies in internal communications. There's a pattern that matches someone with high-level access. If we're right, they've been relaying information for months." Ramesh and Anika leaned over the tablet, studying the data. The trail pointed to a single name, Arvind Mehra, a long-standing executive who had cultivated trust across departments and maintained a polished, unassuming demeanor. "It can't be," Ramesh muttered. "Arvind has always seemed loyal." Anika's eyes narrowed. Appearances can be deceiving. And in Kapoor's world, loyalty was often bought, not earned. They devised a careful plan to catch Arvind in the act. Every movement was calculated. Surveillance cameras were discreetly monitored, access logs were checked, and communications were tracked. For days, Ramesh, Anika, and Rajiv waited in tense silence, knowing that one wrong step could compromise everything. Finally, late one night, their patience paid off. Arvind approached the server room, carrying a USB device. He appeared confident, unaware that his every step was being observed through cameras and remote monitoring. Ramesh signaled Anika and Rajiv, and they quietly moved to intercept him. "We've got him," whispered Rajiv. "Now or never." Ramesh confronted Arvind in the hallway. "Stop right there," he said firmly, the flashlight illuminating his determined face. Arvind froze, a flicker of panic crossing his face. "Ramesh. You've been leaking information to Kapoor's network," Ramesh interrupted. "All of it. And it ends tonight." Arvind's face hardened. "You don't understand. Kapoor promised power, wealth, protection. I did what I had to survive." Anika stepped forward. "You betrayed everyone here. Your survival isn't worth the destruction you caused. It ends now." Rajiv seized the USB device and secured it. Arvind's expression shifted from anger to realization he had been caught, and there was no escape. The sense of relief that followed was immense, but Ramesh felt no triumph. The revelation of betrayal within their ranks was sobering. Trust was fragile, and the shadows of corruption ran deeper than they had imagined. "This office," Ramesh said quietly, "is a battlefield. Not just against Kapoor, but against anyone willing to sacrifice integrity for personal gain. We must remain vigilant, always." Anika nodded. "We've stopped one threat, but there are always more, waiting in the shadows. The question is, will we be ready?" Ramesh felt the weight of responsibility settle over him like a heavy cloak. He had fought battles seen and unseen, thwarted schemes, and uncovered betrayal. Yet he knew that the fight for truth and justice was ongoing. Kapoor's network had been damaged, but not eliminated entirely. And the office, the company he now fought to protect, remained a place where vigilance, courage, and integrity were the only defenses against the darkness lurking in the corners. As the city lights glimmered outside the office windows, Ramesh realized something fundamental: the war against corruption, betrayal, and fear was never ending. But he also knew that with courage, intelligence, and allies he could trust, even the deepest shadows could be illuminated. The night was unusually quiet in the city, but the calm was deceptive. Somewhere far from Vantage Corp, Kapoor was not idle. Stripped of his position, his power, and his immediate influence, he seethed with fury, plotting his revenge. His removal had been a blow, but it had not broken him. If he could not manipulate the company from within, he would strike from outside, carefully, cunningly, and mercilessly. Back at Vantage Corp, Ramesh, Anika, and Rajiv worked late into the evening, reviewing files, securing backups, and planning their next moves. Despite their recent victories, the air of tension never fully lifted. Every unusual noise, every unexplained email, every shadow felt like a harbinger of danger. "We can't underestimate him," Anika said, her voice low. "Kapoor has been removed from the company, yes, but he still has allies outside. He'll try to hit us where we're most vulnerable." Ramesh nodded, his eyes scanning the security monitors. "We've already seen one strike. This time, it could be more dangerous. Financial sabotage, cyber attacks, maybe even physical threats. We have to be prepared for anything." Rajiv looked at them, tension etched on his face. "I've traced some unusual transactions. It's subtle, but it's happening. Kapoor is moving money, attempting to destabilize the company's investments. If we don't act fast, the damage could be massive." Ramesh felt a chill. The battle was no longer just about exposing the truth. It had become a fight to protect the very survival of the company and the livelihoods of everyone who depended on it. Hours later, a sudden alert flashed across the security monitors. Multiple access attempts from external networks were trying to breach the company's servers simultaneously. Rajiv's fingers flew across his keyboard, tracing the origin. It's coordinated. He's not acting alone. Someone is orchestrating this remotely. If they succeed, they could erase everything: emails, accounts, evidence, everything. Ramesh exchanged a glance with Anika. We need to act immediately. Divide and secure every terminal, every server. No mistakes. As they worked, Ramesh noticed something unusual, a pattern in the cyber attack that hinted at insider knowledge. Kapoor's allies weren't just external hackers, they had been trained to exploit weaknesses within the company's systems. Someone still knew the inner workings of Vantage Corp intimately. Hours passed like a relentless storm. The trio moved through the office, securing terminals, disconnecting compromised networks, and monitoring every suspicious activity. Finally, with a coordinated effort, they blocked the primary intrusion and restored security protocols. Breathing heavily, Ramesh leaned against a desk. We've stopped this attack, he said, but it won't be the last. Kapoor will escalate. He'll find new ways to hit us, and we have to anticipate every possibility. Anika nodded, her face determined. Then we prepare. Not just to defend, but to strike back strategically if necessary. We can't allow fear to dictate our actions. Ramesh realized that this was more than a battle for the company, it was a test of courage, intelligence, and resolve. Kapoor's rage was a reminder that exposing corruption came with risks far beyond immediate consequences. The war was no longer confined to the office, it extended into shadows outside their control, where the enemy waited, patient and cunning. As the team fortified their defenses and documented every attack, Ramesh's mind turned to a single thought: victory required more than courage alone, it required vigilance, strategy, and the willingness to face danger head-on. Somewhere beyond the city, Kapoor watched. His eyes glinted with determination, his mind plotting the next move. And Ramesh knew, with a chilling certainty, that the next strike could be the most dangerous yet. Would Kapoor's next attack succeed in destabilizing the company? Could Ramesh, Anika, and Rajiv anticipate his moves before it was too late? And how far would Kapoor go to reclaim the power he had lost? The battle had escalated beyond expectation, and the shadows of retaliation grew darker by the hour. The following morning, Vantage Corp's headquarters was alive with cautious energy. Employees moved quickly through the halls, aware that the recent chaos had shifted the company's dynamics. Rumors of Kapoor's attempts at retaliation had spread quietly, and every glance, every conversation carried the weight of suspicion. Ramesh, Anika, and Rajiv convened in the CEO's office, their expressions tense. This isn't just about cyber attacks anymore, Anika said, her fingers tapping nervously on the desk. I've intercepted communications suggesting Kapoor has started recruiting allies outside the company, people who are willing to do whatever it takes to destabilize Vantage Corp. He's forming a network, and it's growing fast. Ramesh's jaw tightened. Then we need to be ready. We've defended against his moves so far, but this is bigger. We have to anticipate, strategize, and stay ahead. Rajiv nodded grimly. I've been analyzing the patterns. It's subtle, but deliberate. He's testing our reactions, seeing how fast we respond, probing for weaknesses. His next move will be precise, and it could target multiple areas at once. As they discussed their strategy, a knock on the door startled them. A young woman stepped inside, tall, confident, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. She introduced herself as Mira, a consultant recently assigned to assist with corporate security. I know what you're dealing with, Mira said quietly. And I can help. Kapoor's network is sophisticated, but I've handled situations like this before. If you allow me access, I can help you anticipate his next moves. Ramesh exchanged a wary glance with Anika. Trust had been a precious commodity in recent weeks, yet Mira's knowledge and confidence suggested she could be an invaluable ally. All right, Ramesh said cautiously. But we proceed carefully. Any misstep, and this could backfire. Over the next several days, the team, now including Mira, worked tirelessly. They mapped Kapoor's network, traced his communications, and fortified every vulnerable point within the company. Rajiv handled cyber defenses, Anika coordinated internal operations, Mira advised on strategy and potential threats, and Ramesh oversaw the entire operation, his calm but determined presence anchoring the team. Despite their meticulous preparation, the tension never fully lifted. Every unusual email, every unexpected call, every employee who seemed nervous triggered Ramesh's instincts. He had learned to read subtle signs, the small gestures, the hesitation, the faintest hints of dishonesty. Kapoor's network was clever, but Ramesh had learned to see what others missed. Late one evening, an alert flashed across Rajiv's monitor: an external intrusion attempt. The hackers weren't just probing, they were attempting to manipulate financial records simultaneously. Rajiv's hands flew over the keyboard, blocking access and tracing the source. "It's coordinated," he said, eyes wide. "Multiple points at once. This is more than a test, it's an attack in progress." Ramesh and Anika moved quickly, reinforcing security protocols and guiding employees to secure terminals. Mira's strategic insights proved invaluable, helping them predict the next moves and prevent further damage. After hours of tense work, the attack was contained. But the team realized something unsettling: Kapoor's network was evolving, adapting to their defenses. He wasn't just retaliating, he was learning from every move they made, preparing to strike with greater precision. Ramesh looked at his team, exhaustion and determination etched on his face. "We've held him off so far," he said, "but this is far from over. He's becoming more dangerous, more unpredictable. The real test is yet to come." Anika's voice was steady but serious. "Then we stay vigilant. Every file, every system, every action, nothing is off limits when it comes to protecting the truth." Ramesh nodded. The shadows of danger were no longer confined to the office, they extended into the city, into the world outside. Kapoor's retaliation was relentless, and the battle for integrity, justice, and survival had entered a new, more dangerous phase. Could Kapoor's growing network outmaneuver them next time? Would their vigilance and strategy be enough to prevent catastrophic damage? And how far would Kapoor go before he was finally stopped? The web of danger had tightened, and Ramesh knew that only courage, intelligence, and unwavering trust in his allies could hold the line. The office was quiet, almost unnaturally so. The usual hum of computers and chatter of employees was replaced by a tense stillness, as if everyone instinctively sensed that something bigger was coming. Ramesh walked through the corridors with measured steps, his eyes scanning every corner. The sense of danger had become constant, almost palpable, a shadow that followed them relentlessly. Anika met him near the main server room, her face pale but determined. "Ramesh, I've been monitoring communications all night," she said. "Kapoor's network is preparing a high-stakes attack. It's bigger than anything we've faced. They're coordinating both cyber attacks and attempts to manipulate our internal operations simultaneously. If they succeed, it could bring the company to its knees." Ramesh's jaw tightened. "Then we have to move fast. No mistakes. This isn't just defense anymore, it's a counterstrike, a race against time." Rajiv appeared, carrying a tablet with real-time data. "They've divided their attack into phases," he said. "Phase 1 was probing the network. Phase 2 is more aggressive, attempting to freeze critical systems, redirect funds, and create chaos. Phase 3. I'm not entirely sure. But if they complete it, the company could suffer irreparable damage." Mira joined them, her presence calm yet commanding. "We need to anticipate their moves. If we predict the sequence correctly, we can neutralize the attack before it causes real damage. But it requires precision, coordination, and split-second timing." Ramesh nodded. "Then we prepare. Divide and secure every terminal, every server. We track movements, anticipate every step, and block them at each stage. This ends tonight one way or another." Hours passed in tense silence. The team worked methodically, implementing security protocols, monitoring unusual activity, and securing critical systems. The flickering of monitors, the low hum of servers, and the rapid tapping of keyboards created a tense symphony of urgency. Suddenly, alarms blared across the security system. Multiple attempts to access internal files were detected simultaneously, and Ramesh felt his pulse spike. Kapoor's network had begun the high-stakes phase. Phase 2 is underway, Rajiv shouted over the alarms. They're trying to freeze systems and manipulate accounts. Ramesh, Anika, and Meera moved swiftly, coordinating their defense. Block every unauthorized access. Ramesh ordered. Trace the source. Anticipate their next moves. Minutes stretched into hours as the team fought a digital and physical battle. Every intrusion attempt was countered, every vulnerable point fortified, and every employee carefully guided to avoid mistakes. Kapoor's network was relentless, adaptive, and terrifyingly precise. In the midst of chaos, Ramesh noticed a subtle anomaly, a backdoor in the system that had been left unnoticed. They've left something hidden, he muttered. A contingency, a final move. We need to find it before it's too late. Anika and Rajiv scanned the systems, eyes straining at lines of code and encrypted communications. Meera pointed out a sequence of actions that suggested a final, catastrophic attempt to override the company's entire network. Ramesh took a deep breath. Then we intercept. Now. With calculated precision, the team executed a countermeasure, isolating the hidden backdoor, neutralizing the threat, and regaining full control of the systems. The alarms ceased, the monitors stabilized, and a tense silence fell over the office. Breathing heavily, Ramesh leaned against the desk. It's over, for now. Anika placed a hand on his shoulder. We stopped them, but this shows how dangerous Kapoor's network has become. We've defended the company tonight, but the battle isn't finished. He's still out there, planning, waiting for another opportunity. Ramesh nodded. Then we stay vigilant. We anticipate, we prepare, and we act decisively. No hesitation. No mistakes. As the night gave way to dawn, the team realized that their courage, intelligence, and coordination had prevented a disaster. Yet the shadow of Kapoor's network lingered, a reminder that even victory could carry uncertainty, and that vigilance, trust, and courage were the only shields against those who lurked in the darkness. The office lights burned late into the night, casting long shadows across the empty corridors. The tension that had been building over weeks now felt like a storm ready to break. Ramesh sat at his desk, reviewing the secured files once again, but his focus was interrupted by a soft chime on his phone. A message flashed across the screen. We know your family. Step back, or suffer the consequences. Ramesh's heart froze. Kapoor's retaliation had just crossed a line. It was no longer about the company, the files, or even his personal career. It had become deeply personal. Someone close to him was being threatened, and the stakes had skyrocketed. Anika appeared beside him, concern etched across her face. Ramesh, what is it? He showed her the message. Kapoor, he's trying to hit me where it hurts most. My family. Rajiv came in behind them, eyes narrowing. Then this isn't just a corporate battle anymore. It's personal. We need to act carefully. Any wrong move could put your family in real danger. Ramesh's hands tightened into fists. I've faced him before. I've fought his schemes. But this changes everything. He wants fear, chaos, and submission. I won't give him that. Meera stepped forward, her voice steady and commanding. Then we protect your family while continuing to secure the company. Kapoor is clever, but he underestimates your resilience. We have a plan, but it will require coordination, vigilance, and decisive action. Over the next hours, the team coordinated a two-pronged strategy. Rajiv reinforced digital defenses to prevent any traceable threats. Meera worked with external security contacts to ensure the safety of Ramesh's family. Anika and Ramesh focused on tracking Kapoor's communications, hoping to anticipate his next move. Despite their careful planning, every alert, every shadow, and every unusual call sent a jolt of adrenaline through Ramesh. The pressure of knowing his loved ones were in danger weighed heavily, but it also strengthened his resolve. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. Late that night, a subtle but crucial clue emerged, a pattern in the communications that suggested Kapoor was coordinating with someone very close to the company, perhaps someone who had stayed hidden until now. Ramesh's pulse quickened. He had uncovered betrayal before, but this felt different. Kapoor had learned, adapted, and now he was striking with precision. Ramesh and Anika followed the trail carefully. Every message, every code, every piece of data was a step toward uncovering the person who was enabling Kapoor's attacks. The tension in the office was palpable, even the computers seemed to hum with anticipation, as if aware of the high stakes. Finally, they traced the source, a trusted employee from an important department, someone who had been loyal in appearance but was secretly feeding Kapoor information. The realization hit Ramesh hard: betrayal was never just about actions, but about trust broken, bonds fractured, and vulnerability exposed. With careful planning, the team confronted the employee. The confrontation was tense, charged with fear, anger, and disbelief. "Why?" Ramesh demanded. "After everything, why betray us?" The employee's face twisted with fear and justification. He promised protection, wealth, power. "You don't understand. I had no choice." Anika's voice was firm. "There's always a choice. And your choice endangered lives. It ends now." The employee's access was revoked, and measures were immediately taken to secure every vulnerable point. Kapoor's attempt to strike personally had been neutralized, but the lesson was clear: the fight was no longer just about business, it was about courage, vigilance, and protecting what mattered most. Ramesh took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. He had faced threats, betrayal, and danger before, but this personal attack had tested not only his skill but his resolve, his values, and his commitment to doing what was right. As the team regrouped, Ramesh realized a fundamental truth: courage was tested most when fear touched the heart, and integrity shone brightest when darkness threatened to consume everything. Kapoor's attack had been personal, but Ramesh had faced it with unwavering determination, proving that true strength comes not from power or position, but from the choice to protect, to fight, and to act with honor. The city slept uneasily, unaware of the invisible war waging within its corporate towers. Inside Vantage Corp, the tension was suffocating. Ramesh, Anika, Rajiv, and Mira had spent countless nights securing systems, monitoring communications, and protecting both the company and Ramesh's family. Yet, despite their vigilance, Kapoor was not finished. Late that evening, a sudden alert lit up every monitor in the security room. Multiple systems across departments were being targeted simultaneously, an assault far more sophisticated and aggressive than anything before. Kapoor had launched a bold strike, orchestrating a multi-pronged attack designed to overwhelm their defenses and create chaos in the company's operations. Rajiv's eyes widened as he traced the source. "This is massive. He's coordinating from multiple locations. It's not just cyber attacks anymore, he's manipulating financial transactions, communication channels, and even internal reports simultaneously. If we fail, the entire company could collapse." Ramesh's pulse quickened, but his face remained steady. "Then we respond immediately. Split into teams. Secure every system, trace every channel, and anticipate his moves. This isn't just defense, it's survival." Anika took charge of internal operations, guiding employees to secure terminals and avoid panic. Mira analyzed patterns in real time, predicting the next moves of Kapoor's network. Ramesh and Rajiv focused on neutralizing the core digital threats, each keystroke a battle in a war of precision and speed. Hours passed like a relentless storm. Kapoor's network adapted to every defense, but the team's coordination and vigilance kept them one step ahead. Still, the bold strike had its effects: minor disruptions, temporary confusion, and the unsettling realization that their enemy had grown stronger, smarter, and more relentless. Then, a sudden, chilling discovery: Kapoor had embedded a hidden threat within the company's supply chain. Certain contracts and automated processes had been manipulated to trigger failures, damage reputation, and siphon critical resources. The magnitude of the attack was staggering. Ramesh took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility more intensely than ever. "We've contained the immediate threats, but this is strategic. Kapoor isn't just attacking systems, he's attacking the company itself. Its structure, its operations, its credibility. Anika's eyes narrowed. Then we strike strategically. We anticipate, we block, and we take control of every vulnerable point. We make sure he cannot succeed in destabilizing the company. For hours, the team worked with unyielding focus, isolating manipulated processes, correcting errors, and securing every possible breach. Kapoor's bold strike was neutralized, but the audacity of his attack left an indelible mark. He was no longer just a corporate adversary, he was a relentless, strategic enemy capable of thinking several steps ahead. As dawn approached, exhaustion and relief mingled. The immediate danger had passed, but Ramesh knew the battle was far from over. Kapoor's network remained a threat, and his willingness to escalate had just been demonstrated. Ramesh looked at his team, determination hardening in his eyes. We've survived the bold strike. But we cannot underestimate him ever again. Every move, every action, meticulous planning, unwavering courage, and absolute vigilance will be our defense. Rajiv nodded, still tense but resolute. We've held him off this time. But next time, he might push even further. We must anticipate his escalation. Anika added, and we must remember, the stakes aren't just the company. They're everything we care about. The people, the integrity, the truth. Ramesh's gaze swept across the office. Kapoor's shadowy presence had been felt, his boldness undeniable, and his strategies terrifying. Yet, the team's courage, unity, and intelligence had prevailed, for now. The office lights flickered as dusk settled over the city, casting long, uneasy shadows across the Vantage Corp headquarters. Ramesh moved silently through the halls, his senses alert to the faintest hint of danger. Weeks of battles, cyber attacks, betrayals, and bold strikes had sharpened his instincts to a razor edge, but tonight felt different. Anika met him near the central security room, her face pale. Ramesh, it's worse than we thought. Kapoor's network isn't just attacking systems anymore, they've infiltrated key departments. They're attempting to manipulate the company's public communications. If they succeed, the damage to Vantage Corp's reputation could be irreversible. Ramesh's jaw tightened. Then we act immediately. This isn't just defense anymore, it's a race to prevent a collapse. Rajiv appeared, tense, holding a tablet with flashing alerts. Multiple systems are being targeted simultaneously. They're hitting finance, communications, and operations at the same time. If this continues, the company could face both financial and public ruin in hours. Mira stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. We need to coordinate a full-scale countermeasure. Every team, every terminal, every employee must be secured and accounted for. We block, isolate, and neutralize, no room for error. The team divided into strategic positions. Ramesh led the central operation, monitoring the network and coordinating responses. Rajiv countered digital threats in real time, Anika managed internal communication channels, and Mira directed overall strategy, predicting Kapoor's next moves with near-perfect precision. Hours of relentless effort passed. Kapoor's network adapted to every countermeasure, each attack more sophisticated than the last. The office was tense, silent except for the hum of computers and the rapid tapping of keyboards. Every second felt like a lifetime, every decision a test of nerves, skill, and courage. Then came the shocking revelation: Kapoor had planted a mole in the company's upper management, someone Ramesh had trusted deeply. This person had been feeding information about their defenses, predicting their responses, and guiding the attacks from the inside. Ramesh froze for a moment, the betrayal cutting deeper than any cyber attack or threat. How? He whispered, disbelief mingling with fury. Anika placed a hand on his shoulder. We deal with it. Now. Focus on stopping the collapse first. The betrayal, we'll confront it after. With renewed determination, the team executed a carefully coordinated counterstrike. Systems were isolated, manipulated communications were corrected, and the mole's access was immediately revoked. Kapoor's network, though formidable, was finally contained, this time with absolute precision. Exhausted but triumphant, Ramesh leaned back. We've held them off, for now. But the stakes have never been higher. and the danger has never been clearer. Kapoor will not stop, and neither will we. Mira nodded. This was a turning point. We've survived the brink of collapse, but we've also revealed the depths of Kapoor's reach and the truth about how far someone will go to protect or betray power. Ramesh's eyes scanned the office, lingering on his team. Courage, intelligence, and unity had carried them through the night. But he knew the ultimate test was approaching, the moment where every strategy, every skill, and every ounce of courage would be pushed to the limit. The morning sun cast a pale, determined light across the Vantage Corp headquarters. After weeks of attacks, betrayals, and relentless tension, the team felt a fleeting sense of calm, but Ramesh knew better. Kapoor was patient, strategic, and ruthless. The calm was merely a pause before the storm's final act. Ramesh convened the team in the central office. Anika, Rajiv, and Mira were tense but focused, their eyes reflecting the same unspoken thought. This was the culmination of everything they had fought for. Kapoor is regrouping, Ramesh said, voice steady. This is our last chance to anticipate his moves, expose his network completely, and finally secure the company. Every system, every process, every person must be accounted for. One slip could undo everything. Mira nodded. We've traced his remaining allies, identified the mole, and mapped out every channel he might use. Tonight, we take the fight to him, strategically and decisively. Rajiv added, cyber attacks, communication manipulations, financial disruptions. He won't have the element of surprise this time. We've learned from every move he made, and we're ready to counteract with precision. Hours passed as the team prepared for the decisive operation. Every terminal was secured, every employee briefed, every vulnerability addressed. The office felt like a fortress, tense and alert, as if the walls themselves were bracing for the inevitable confrontation. As night fell, the first signs of Kapoor's counterstrike appeared. Alerts flashed across monitors, simultaneous attempts to infiltrate multiple systems. But this time, Ramesh and his team were ready. Every move Kapoor attempted was anticipated, every breach blocked, every manipulation neutralized. Then came the moment of truth. Kapoor himself attempted direct contact, masked through layers of digital anonymity. His message was clear, cold, and taunting. You think you've won? The game isn't over. Not until I say it is. Ramesh's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He's desperate, he murmured. Desperation makes people reckless. That's when we act. With Mira's guidance, they launched a controlled counter-operation. Systems were traced, digital footprints exposed, and every remaining ally of Kapoor identified. It was a surgical strike, precise, coordinated, and irreversible. Hours of tense effort culminated in a single, decisive moment. Kapoor's network was neutralized, the mole exposed, and every manipulated system restored. The threat that had haunted the company for weeks was finally contained. Ramesh leaned back, exhausted but resolute. It's done. We've secured the company, protected our people, and exposed every hidden threat. Anika exhaled slowly. But the lesson remains: vigilance, courage, and integrity are the only shields against those who operate in the shadows. We've survived because we trusted each other, acted decisively, and refused to compromise our values. Rajiv nodded, exhaustion and relief mingling in his eyes. And Kapoor? He's gone, for now. But this shows the cost of underestimating corruption, ambition, and deception. We must never forget that. Ramesh looked around at his team, gratitude and pride swelling in his chest. Together, they had faced relentless danger, personal threats, and betrayal from within. Together, they had emerged victorious not just by skill, but by courage, trust, and determination. Could Kapoor ever return to threaten them again? Perhaps. But the lessons learned, the bonds forged, and the integrity preserved would ensure that Vantage Corp and everyone who believed in truth would stand strong against any storm. The final moves had been played, and for the first time in weeks, Ramesh felt a glimmer of hope. The company was secure, and justice had prevailed. The first light of dawn filtered softly through the tall windows of Vantage Corp, bathing the office in a golden glow that contrasted sharply with the chaos of the past weeks. The company had survived, but the scars of Kapoor's attacks lingered, both in the systems they had fought to protect and in the hearts of those who had endured the tension and betrayal. Ramesh walked through the office slowly, observing employees as they returned to normal routines. Some faces were weary, others cautious, but beneath it all was a sense of relief, a recognition that the storm had passed, for now. Anika joined him, her expression a mix of pride and exhaustion. "We've secured everything, Ramesh. The systems, the files, the company's reputation, it's all intact. And the mole has been removed. Kapoor's network has been neutralized." Ramesh nodded, though the weight of responsibility still pressed heavily on him. "Yes, but this has taught us more than just how to defend a company. It's taught us about trust, vigilance, and the cost of betrayal. We survived because we were united, because we acted decisively, and because we never compromised our integrity." Rajiv approached, holding a tablet. "The financial systems are fully restored, all evidence of manipulation erased, and the company's credibility remains intact. It's a remarkable recovery, considering the scale of Kapoor's attempts." Mira, standing nearby, added quietly, "And yet the lessons extend beyond the office. We've seen what desperation and greed can drive people to, how easily trust can be exploited, and how courage and unity can overcome even the most ruthless schemes." Ramesh reflected on the past weeks, the relentless cyber attacks, the betrayals, the personal threats, the bold strikes, and the brink of collapse moments. Each challenge had tested their resolve, sharpened their instincts, and strengthened their bonds. He gathered the team in the central office one last time. "What we faced isn't just a corporate battle," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "It's a reminder that integrity, courage, and trust are priceless. We've proven that no matter how sophisticated the attacks, no matter how deep the betrayal, these values can guide us through even the darkest times." Anika smiled faintly. "And the company is stronger for it. Every employee, every department, every system has learned the importance of vigilance and responsibility." Rajiv added, "Kapoor's attacks were designed to create chaos and fear. But in the end, we've turned his schemes into a testament of unity, foresight, and determination." Ramesh took a deep breath, feeling a quiet sense of closure. The battle had been long, perilous, and exhausting, but it had revealed something vital, that courage, vigilance, and trust, values often overlooked in the rush of everyday life, could overcome even the most relentless and sophisticated adversaries. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the digital wars and personal risks that had played out in the shadows. But within the walls of Vantage Corp, the team knew the truth: they had survived, they had learned, and they had prevailed. Could Kapoor ever attempt a return? Perhaps. But now, the company and its people were prepared. They had faced betrayal, personal threats, and calculated attacks, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. And as Ramesh looked at his team, he understood that the greatest victory wasn't just in stopping Kapoor, it was in reaffirming the principles that had guided them through every trial: integrity, courage, and trust. The office was quiet, but the atmosphere carried a sense of completion. Weeks of chaos, betrayal, and relentless attacks had tested every fiber of Vantage Corp and every ounce of courage within Ramesh and his team. Now, with Kapoor's network dismantled and the mole removed, the company stood stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Ramesh stood by the tall windows, looking out at the city bathed in morning light. It felt like a new beginning. The storm had passed, leaving behind lessons etched in memory, scars softened by survival, and bonds strengthened by shared struggle. Anika approached, a small smile on her face. "It's over, Ramesh. We did it. The company is secure, your family is safe, and Kapoor's threats are gone." Ramesh nodded slowly, relief mingling with lingering tension. "Yes, but this experience, it's taught us something deeper. That courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act despite it. That trust is fragile, yet powerful. And that integrity is the shield that can withstand even the most relentless attacks." Rajiv joined them, holding a folder. "All final reports are completed. Every action of Kapoor's network has been documented. The evidence will ensure that he cannot return to harm the company or anyone else involved." Mira's voice added a final note of wisdom. "And the moral remains clear: vigilance and unity are as important as skill and strategy. Alone, we are vulnerable. Together, guided by principles, we are unbreakable." Ramesh reflected on the journey, the subtle betrayals, the relentless attacks, the personal threats, and the high-stakes gambits. Each moment had tested their courage, resilience, and ethical compass. And yet, through trust, intelligence, and determination, they had emerged victorious not just in defending the company, but in affirming the values that had guided them through the darkness. The mole, once a trusted ally, had been exposed, reminding everyone that appearances can be deceiving. Kapoor's network, no matter how sophisticated, had been outmaneuvered through unity, foresight, and unyielding resolve. And Ramesh, at the center of it all, realized that leadership was not only about strategy or authority, it was about courage, moral clarity, and the ability to inspire trust and loyalty even in the face of overwhelming adversity. The office lights dimmed as the team gathered for a final meeting. Each member reflected on the ordeal, the lessons learned, and the personal growth achieved. There was a sense of peace, tempered by the knowledge that vigilance must never be abandoned, but strengthened through experience and foresight. Ramesh finally spoke, his voice steady and resolute. "We've faced threats both seen and unseen. We've confronted betrayal, danger, and personal risk. And through it all, we've learned that true victory is not only in defeating adversaries but in upholding the principles that define who we are. Integrity, courage, and trust, these are the foundations that cannot be shaken, no matter the challenges ahead." Anika, Rajiv, and Meera nodded in agreement. The lessons of the past weeks had become part of them, a guiding light for the future. Together, they had turned fear into courage, chaos into strategy, and betrayal into a testament of resilience. Outside the windows, the city moved forward, unaware of the battles waged in shadows and the victories earned in silence. But within Vantage Corp, the team knew the truth: justice had been served, threats had been neutralized, and the values of integrity, courage, and trust had triumphed. Ramesh allowed himself a rare smile, feeling a deep sense of closure. Kapoor's reign of threats was over, the company was secure, and the team tested, challenged, and united had proven that even in the darkest times, the light of moral courage could prevail. And as they looked toward the future, one thing was certain: the trials they had endured would forever remind them that strength lies not in power alone, but in the unwavering choice to do what is right. The battle had ended. The lessons had been learned. And justice, tempered with wisdom, courage, and integrity, had finally prevailed.